Thank you everyone for joining our fifth IIoT India Digital Connect series on unveiling connected factories of the future, making India the world's next factory. My name is Shomili and I'm your host for today. As many manufacturers grapple with the myriad organizational and ecosystem wide changes exerting pressure on their operations, the smart factory offer ways that can successfully address some of these issues. The ability to adjust and learn from data in real time can make the smart factory more responsive, proactive, and predictive, and enables the organization to avoid operational downtime and other productivity challenges. In today's session, we will learn how smart factories helps overcome these challenges. Now, without further ado, let me introduce you all to our speakers. We have the great pleasure of having with us today the lead for Advanced Manufacturing and Production World Economic Forum, Mr. Felipe Bezamat, our moderator for today. He is an expert in new business strategies and pioneering technologies and has guided multiple industrial and manufacturing organizations through their transformational journey in innovation and novel business and operating models. Thank you, Felipe, for joining us today. Next in the panel, we have Dr. Aloknath De, Senior Vice President and Chief Technology Officer, Samsung India. Dr. De has over 30 years of industrial and research experiences, including BEL, Nortel, Hughes, and with ST Ericsson, where he was R&D Director and Country Manager. During 2005 to 11, he served as a visiting adjunct professor with IIT Roorkee and IIT Delhi. Thank you, Dr. De, for joining us today. Next on our panel is Mr. Sarajit Jha, who is a Chief of Business Transformation and Digital Solution, Tata Steel. Mr. Jha leads Tata Steel's digital transformation initiatives. He led the setting up of Analytics and Center of Excellence in Tata Steel and has contributed to creation of a business-focused digital and IT organization. Thank you, Mr. Jha, for joining us today. Now, without further ado, I request Mr. Bizamat to start today's discussion. Over to you.
Thank you, Somili, for this kind introduction, and warm welcome everyone to this session on unveiling connected factories of the future, making India the world's next factory. My name is Felipe Samat. I'm from the World Economic Forum based in Geneva, Switzerland, and I look after a piece of work that we call the Platform for Shaping the Future of Advanced Manufacturing and Production. With an ecosystem of more than 140 organizations, academia, and Minister of Industries, we address and we try to uncover the opportunities that technologies, new business models, new partnerships are transforming the manufacturing and the industrial space. In this platform, we bring together senior executives, leaders from all over the world in order to accelerate the inclusive deployment of technologies and at the same time stimulate innovation. That's why the topic of today that Somila was introducing is so exciting for me. It's part of my daily work and at the same time very close to my heart and my passion. So delighted to be invited facilitating this discussion. We have a fantastic group of experts and leaders from the region that will help us, and we're going to discuss about what are the opportunities for India around factories of the future, smart factories, and what are the potential as well for the country to become a manufacturing powerhouse. Just a quick context in terms of and what we're facing right now, new technologies are offering us new opportunities to mitigate impact, new shocks. At the end, COVID-19 show us the fragility of the production system in terms of providing, in the middle provision, particularly of basic goods or essential goods, actually, with a strong and significant impact for consumers, for businesses for sure, and for the whole society. In a recent study that we developed at the World Economic Forum, where we surveyed more than 400 executives from globally, the majority of them share that new technologies, particularly advanced manufacturing technologies, play a key role in the crisis recovery in terms of increasing visibility, improving risk assessment, and enhancing flexibility to a changing of demand. So today, that's why we're going to discuss with our distinguished panelists that I will introduce in a second, what are these new opportunities that technologies are bringing to the sector, and what are the right capabilities and investments that are needed in India in order that we push the factories frontier. My role today will be to facilitate the discussion, and I'm really looking forward to a very dynamic and interactive discussion. So let's try to keep this very, as I say, like a fire chat, very informal. And I'm also very excited that we have many participants connected online. So let's try to make this really participative and pragmatic as possible, and invite everyone connected to submit your question, your Q&A. On the bottom part of Zoom, you have the Q&A option. I will try to bring them to the discussion as soon as possible. Without further ado, let me introduce our panelists that will help us understand the situation in India and at the same time give us new ideas and recommendations for the region. So we have Dr. Aloknath De, he's the Corporate VP and CTO of Samsung, and Sarajit Jha, he's the Chief Business Transformation and Digital Officer from Tata Steel. Delighted to meet you both. Can you hear me well?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Philippe.
That's perfect.
Hello, Alok. I think I can hear you both of you very well. Thank you.
Very good.
That's perfect. Delighted. So let's kick off this. And I would love to hear first where we are, like a first picture of where we stand right now in India. Maybe I can start with you, Dr. Alok. From your perspective, what's the current status in India in terms of integrated manufacturing and production system?
Okay, so thank you again. And Samsung product you all know, so therefore I will not try to introduce any products here, but our presence in India, I think even there, those who are from India listening, they will be knowing us very well. But for others, let me just introduce, we are 10 regions of Samsung globally, out of which Southwest Asian region headquarter is in Delhi region. And we operate these SAARC countries more or less in that. We have 2 R&D centers, so I'm CTO for that in Delhi and in Bangalore. And we cover 5G, AI, IoT, and many other cutting edge technologies, as well as we take care of the manufactured products here, their softwares from our Delhi center. We have 2 manufacturing units, one in Delhi and one in Chennai in the South region. So before I give a broad picture, let me just introduce Samsung's own journey in India. We are 26th year. We just started two days back, our 26th year. And in manufacturing itself, now I'll focus on that part. In 1996, we have started in India, manufacturing. And that's not a time many people have anticipated and have come as multinational to do R&D, yes, but not so much manufacturing. Since then, in 2007, we started this mobile factory and brought the PCB and phased manufacturing program. We kind of invested at that time $600 million to start this mobile in the Delhi area, which is Noida factory. From there, we went into South, Samsung Chennai, to make home appliances, all the color monitors, the TVs, washing machine, fridge, AC, all kind of white goods we grew. This was in 2009. So pre-2010, we have kind of established ourselves in the first phase. Now, what we have done recently, I'll not go through all the years, but 2018, we have been having this UP is big state, Uttar Pradesh electronics manufacturing policy that came that gave some stimulus. And we were already manufacturing about 64 million units of smartphone per year from our Noida factory already. And that is a time we announced that in next 2 to 3 years, by next year, will be 100 million units of smartphones, making it for the country, covering 90% of our India populations. barring some high-end stuffs that we do not make it here. But also, we said we will start exporting. By the way, just to be clear, it is not assembly. There is a government value-added manufacturing, so we qualify for that. And also, we are doing the latest smartphones, one model behind. We are fully manufacturing out of our India factory. And just the last point to highlight is that recently we also understood that not just the core product, but also the ancillaries, like your batteries and displays. So either you should have a local ecosystem or we should be able to build it. About a week back, we have announced Samsung's display unit, about $640 million we are investing to make a new manufacturing as an extensions, which will also employ 500 plus people into that. And the TV sets, we are going to be expanding into our Chennai area. So this is a journey broadly. I wanted to put the context in which Samsung is manufacturing all the smartphones to white goods in this. Now, just a small point, and we can come back after that. Broadly in country, recently, this whole manufacturing thrust from government has been given. And it's not just mobile phones. When we started, we are only two of the mobile units. Today, it's 100 plus companies, either components or others are building, and many more are coming, as you can see. But also, government has initiated a program to address 10 different sectors for R&D, for manufacturing broadly, out of which I can say the solar PV and medical devices are two importance. So that's coming up very solidly because India has a pharmaceuticals and biotech hub. And if you can add this medical devices and all these vaccines that we are talking in the context of COVID-19, this will be great. And as power, energy, yes, renewable energy is very important. So solar and wind power are two focus areas. So I'll stop in this round and maybe come back with your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Alok. And Sarajit, can you provide us and give us a perspective of where we stand in India in terms of connected factory?
So that's thank you, Dr. Day. I think a quick one for those of you who are listening in. I think everybody in Tata Steel in India would know us as Tata Steel, but just to give you a sense, we are one of the top 10 producers of steel in the world. We are an integrated steel manufacturer, which means we have our own mines and we manufacture it. Uh, for some who are not very familiar with the steel industry, to make every 1 ton of steel, you need to move about 6 tons of material, which is iron ore and coal, and of course byproducts and waste. So we move about 120 million metric tons of material in India alone every year, which probably makes us the largest shipper of stuff all across, and it's multimodal. And one of the other nuances to keep in mind is because we operate in very remote locations. We support a town of Jamshedpur, which is about 1.7 million people. So we are into the smart cities venture, and of course we have to support our own hospitals. We have a 1,000-bedded hospital in the city of Jamshedpur. Roughly, coming back to India, we see ourselves as a 113-year-old startup. We are one of the few companies that saw the last pandemic. We would like to believe that our response to this one was as robust as was our response to the last one. But three things, three dimensions in what's happening as we see in India. I think the focus on manufacturing, that it needs to be about 25% of the GDP of the country, and the fact that it was about 17 and slipped back to 15 is well noted. There are three large things which are observed as why manufacturing is not taken over. The power costs in India are higher than the rest of the world. Typically, logistics cost is about 7 to 9% versus the 14% in India. And the third is that there were labor issues. All of these are, there is a constant attempt to address it. I think on the power side, there is an opportunity for India to rediscover itself on solar power and more sustainable power, because India can be one of the top 3 producers of solar power in the world. On the side of labor, there have been some labor reforms which have been undertaken by the government, which in the short run may not really spur too much, but I think in the medium term will lead to a more vibrant and fluid labor market, which is essential. And I think on the third part of logistics, the Niti Aayog has announced the Unified Logistics Integrated Program with the explicit where a lot of people are, I mean, there's some pilots going on to see how we can create a multimodal unified logistics platform in India, inspired by what India has achieved in on the payment side of the business through the Bharat stack or the digital stack of India, as it calls. Exciting areas are three. One, I think, is connectivity, led by LoRaWAN and led by smart campuses on 5G, is what I see as a very exciting area. The other exciting area is, of course, if the smart sensors and the sensorization can come in, so a lot more data can be ingested. And of course, the third part of this is the AI, where a lot of deep tech startups, almost 1,200 plus of them, are housed in India, and they can serve the country. So I think those are the three things that can be very, very exciting for the country. Thank you. Over to you, Philip.
Thank you, Sarajit, for that. And can I come back to one topic that both of you touch, actually? You both talk about how you work with the ecosystem, at a local ecosystem. Especially, I remember that I visit the factory that is in Kalinganagar. Excuse me, my pronunciation. That Tata still has in Kalinganagar.
Kalinganagar. Yes.
I visited last year, and I was impressed about. It's a part of our Lighthouse network, actually, in the Global Lighthouse Network, the World Economic Forum, as an outstanding case of working with ecosystem and the local community as well. Can you share a bit more about how crucial is working with ecosystem in India?
Yeah, I think like anywhere else in the world, it is very, very eco. I personally believe that the time for enterprise resource planning is well over, and the ERP should be renamed as the ecosystem resource planning, because no company has a monopoly on intelligence and inspiration. There's going to be a multiple more intellect and inspiration which is always outside the company, and the company as an organization can leverage that to meet its objectives. Coming to Kalinganagar, I think we rely on the whole program, as you know, is around 5 things: yield, energy, throughput, quality, and productivity. We like to call it YIT-QP. That's the base of any factory operations. And what we have done there is that Kalinganagar is very remote in the country. It is in the eastern part of the country, which is underdeveloped. But what we have done is we have trained our own people in 4IR technologies. We have got a partner network, including Tata Communications, Tata Consultancy Services, and of course, some of the kind of top tech, primarily say McKinsey. We partnered with them. We looked at the communities, and we looked at who can serve us locally, which is we're now bringing in a lot of startups within the program that we call D-Step Digital Startup Engagement Program that we have. And we are, of course, we have a strategy called PIC, Platformatization In-House Competency Building and KPI Driven, where we are looking at challenging the lowest cost structure in the world, which is actually held by our own plant, Jamshedpur, and some of the Russian majors from Kalinganagar. And that would make Kalinganagar the fastest steel plant to ramp up to that kind of competency levels in just about 5 years. So we are a 113-year-old startup, and that is really a 5-year-old startup, which is profitable and sustainable. And I would like to call it a camel, because the unicorn has this thing about disappearing. A camel is there for the long haul. Over to you.
Thank you for that. Dr. Alok, how you see like that smart factories and new technologies helping to work with ecosystem?
So to be very honest, when you look into traditional field, whether it is steel or cement or textile, these manufacturing, as Sarajit just explained, 115 years old startups. So this has been there for very long, and their components, all the raw materials, ingredients have been kind of there. We just needed to build ecosystem, and whoever has ventured into that, they've been quite successful. Now, if I take in contrast the new generations or the electronic side of the story, it is a little different, because even from Samsung side, I said, we are kind of 1996, we have come. many of these components, if you have to build a smartphone, the first and foremost is the chipsets. Now we are not having an effective, we had a Semiconductor Complex Limited as chipset manufacturing unit, but most of the work that is going on in India is on the fabless, and we are reliant on other countries to do the fab part of it. And that will continue for some more time because it's not the urgent thing. We can partner with other countries like Taiwan, like Korea, and bring it from there. So that's the first level. Then if we go to the modules level, there also we had certain challenges to have a very big kind of effective modules, but power monitoring units and ICs, smaller modules have been built. So gradually, if we look into decipher the whole smartphones, you'll see certain things are available in India and certain things were not available. Now, in this COVID-19 pandemic time, one thing that has happened, your concept of integrated manufacturing, it will still take some time, but many components that were missing has started coming up, new factories from outside. They are relocating, restarting, newly starting, and even Tata, recently announced to build electronics components, right? So it's very heartening to see that many local manufacturing are starting. And until and unless that happens, the ecosystem inside the country was not possible, but everybody had a vendor list, but maybe they had a very strong reliant on one particular company. What this COVID has done is relook into that and see who are the alternative vendors, what is the quality, if I have to upgrade the quality, which kind of components you would be looking into this. So I think this industrial IoT that we are talking and the digital factory, this whole supply chain, at this point, we were forced to look into it because we got hurt somewhere or the other. I mean, as Samsung, we've done fairly well, but many other companies have suffered in the process, and it has forced them to look from where are they getting and do they know where is it arriving? Is it delayed in the customs to, all the parts being available or not? Is there a critical component missing? So I think with that, I see a much more integrated facility that you are talking. Uh, the initiation, the seed, the germinations has happened. And I believe in a bigger scale, it's going to be happening in due course.
Thank you for that. And actually, it's an interesting point because when we think about factories of the future, we cannot think only about the factory as a facility. We need to think about the factory as the whole integration in the whole value chain or supply chain end to end. And how has been the role that both of your organizations own factories in the region? So how has been like the role of these factories of the future addressing the impact that faced during the COVID-19? You both mentioned it, but I would like to double click on that. And what's the role that you see as well in the future? Now thinking for future shocks or the future impact that may come, how do you think that these factories can help and can support?
Yeah, so if I can just continue the thread, maybe I'll just, since I was in that supply chain moment. So yeah, I mean, so that's the first part, of your components and materials that you need to bring. But also I think this whole just in time manages the warehouses. And we see there in the great revolutions even in India context. And there is this opportunity of leapfrogging a bit. You don't need to go through all the steps that others have gone. And in this, it was more like a go down, dump your stuff at the back end. And from there, this whole modern warehouse concept is coming up. How to even optimize the real estate. How do you bring robotics into the manufacturing, not the main manufacturing line, but also in the warehouse management? So robotics deployment, we can see that it has started happening for logistical chain. Obviously, there are some human interventions in between. I would not say it's a complete robotic process automations at the warehousing, but this concept was there in the manufacturing shop floors, but it's also coming in the warehouse management. This as a concept, and actually Amazon and Flipkart, many online. If you look into recent sales, big billion sales that happen, and you should understand that 99% of the pin code in India, serviceable pin codes, ordered, which means it has gone deep rooted this online ordering. And what it is doing is, since it is online, those warehouses are playing a big role. So it's not just the pure manufacturing, but they are bringing the revolutions in the warehousing, which is also getting integrated into the main manufacturing stream. And the third point I wanted to say is that um, even product, the data revolution that is there, and India is quite at the forefront of data analysts, data scientists. So they are taking this forward, whether it was the supply chain management, but also when you have this product, where is it going out from the wholesale to the retail to the shop level? I launch multicolored products. Which color is being chosen in which city? I'm able to see, and if we have to revector some of those to another city because there is a mismatch in demand supply, you could do that. Even at the country level, at global company level, we are able to do that. But you can also see that reflections into this. So this whole thing, from component supply chain to warehousing to obviously product going to the customer's hand, I can see quite a lot of revolutions, and it's quite data driven. Robots coming into picture, and just-in-time operations optimizations that are effective.
Thank you, Alok. Sarah, would you like to intervene as well?
Three quick points. I think three things happened. One is we went to anytime, anywhere, compute and work. So what happened is that 7,000 people who are not directly in the factory have been working remotely ever since. And you can see I'm in my house as well. I've not been to the office for the last 10 months, and we are a manufacturing company. And now we have two sets of workers. One is the absolute work from home like me, who have become location agnostic till November next year, when we will revisit the policy. And then there was flexible work from home or working from home, but they're tied up to a location and they might need to attend, intermittently. The second dimension has been that when the pandemic struck, we are a process industry. You can't shut us down. I wish we were into batch manufacturing, but we don't have that luxury. We just have a steel at 1565 degrees centigrade that needs to be processed, come what may. Because if it solidifies, it does not become a mobile phone of Gorilla Glass. It becomes pig iron, which absolutely, the equipment becomes the steel, right? So that's the other. So we had to make sure that our suppliers, who may not, maybe batch processors, maybe people giving oxygen, maybe people bringing in certain equipment, had to be kept working. And what helped us there was we have one of the largest IoT instances in the world, where we have 19,000 beacons which are beaconing at about 400 milliseconds, at about 100 milliseconds. We have 75,000 Suraksha cards which we have given to our workers, which catch it at 400 milliseconds. And we need to process about 63 billion records a second to really know where these people are, how they are. They have these Suraksha cards. You can press the button and you can get an alert. And then we have security operation center, remote operation centers, operation control centers that tell us the health as well as the position. So this is where the conjoint of many use cases, surveillance, security, productivity, all have come into one place. And I think the third example I would like to take, so there was this everybody going remote. The third is whoever were coming in. The second was whoever coming in the factory, we are able to locate. And the third is that we have these end-to-end, because these lockdowns were happening, we needed to make sure that our back-end supply chains and our front-end supply chains are working. So this holy grail of end-to-end visibility of end-to-end visibility of the product, the people, the assets, everything was achieved. And that helped us to literally melt away 1 million tons of inventory, as one of my supply chain colleagues very proudly said. I think melting 1 million tons of inventory is something one can really be proud of.
Thank you for that. Actually, both of you mentioned end-to-end visibility and the visibility in supply chain in general. What are the new, do you see any new opportunities that will emerge from these new capabilities or visibilities that we're taking now as part of our kind of new normal or imperative under which business are working?
Yeah, I think one of the things we talked about the whole shop floor things before and after, but I also see one important thing specifically in India, but also I believe global, is that earlier, there used to be two sectors, the service sector and the product, right? Product is product and some hospitality as a service and things. But what's happening more and more is with software driven, and even Sarajit mentioned about platformizations. I see that even if you have a core product, you have to provide services. Consumers are looking for more experience, and this is growing. So the R&Ds work with manufacturing. We do that because that's why we kept it both in Delhi and Noida between our factory and R&D. But this whole concept of value-added manufacturing from service angle, from softwareization or platformizations. For example, if I have to preload some applications, instead of doing somewhere, I could do that in in the manufacturing floor itself. There is this IoT where we are talking about embedded SIM, right? IMEI, and then going into embedded SIM. So it's not a SIM that you will be putting later because IoT products, it's not safe and secure. It could be very small. So we are talking about embedded SIM. So then you'll have to do that in the manufacturing process itself, and there is a software associated with that. So I think before the productions or after the production as it goes out to reach to market to give some kind of guarantee, warranty efficiently to people. So I do see this dimension is also getting added more and more. And since India is quite known for its serviceability, service capability, mindset is very strong, I do see this is coming up more and more in the game.
Thank you, Dr. Sarajit. Would you like to intervene on this?
No, I think the three things that was said: platformatization, servitization, and democratization of technology. And I would just like to add the dimension of unthinkable handshakes. I think every company is going to become a technology company with a business wrapper. And in the 2011s, it was AI, software was eating the world. Then today, AI is actually eating software for lunch. And then tomorrow, it will be something else eating AI for lunch. So that will continue to progress. And there'll be a convergence between the languages that everybody uses. I mean, it was unthinkable maybe 10 years ago for Samsung and Tata Steel to really share the same platform and talk a lingo that either understands. But that's where the convergence of technology is bringing us to. It's a tremendous challenge for us to be able to talk that same language, develop skills that we can cater to, because the climate changes are substantial, and we as the steel industry is 6 to 11% of global pollution, depending upon who you're listening to. I'm assuming that steel industry does not claim less than 6, so the number is not going to be less than 6%. So we have a responsibility towards the environment which we are cognizant of, and technology is the only thing that can help us to bridge that gap. And technology that has to come from the Samsungs of the world and everybody else that's working on it, as well as has to be operationalized at our end so that it can be brought to bear to business impact. I think that to us is the real challenge as well as the exciting part of this journey.
Yeah, I'm happy that only it's eating for lunch and not for dinner, So the important thing is, yeah, there is a challenge associated, as Sarajit mentioned, but the ability to talk to each other in the common language, what it also does is that cross-fertilization of ideas, because you didn't even know that that's possible. So listening to each other, you could pick up some threads and take it in your way, in your factory, in your R&D context, and apply that. So I think that's a good part of that whole cross-fertilization.
Amazing. Actually, I mean, on our side and the World Economic Forum, we have seen that many of the trends around digitalization, because of COVID-19, got much more accelerated, and that created new partnerships and new kind of collaboration as well during the whole context that we were living. So how we can like start learning from this collaboration of this new partnership in a way that in the future we can start further strengthening this kind of cross learnings and cases and experiences that are happening in different factories or in different companies. Both of you mentioned in terms of the challenges that are happening in India. I mean, I remember I took notes at the beginning. You mentioned power costs, labor, logistics. There are like challenges in a way that they stay competitive. What do you think that the right capabilities and investments that are needed in India in order that and that factories can support in a way that the country stay competitive and can increase the share in terms of manufacturing? Dr. Alec, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. I think a few things are known, and there is no magic, and we cannot change overnight, because to grow such things, we'll have to make an right infrastructure, right environment, and country is quite aware of this. Prime Minister, government, they have announced very many programs in production-linked incentives and special economic zones and manufacturing units, even all these manufacturing unit expansions that I talked about, we also got certain incentives, and many others are getting. That's nice. I see some contract manufacturing like Pegatron and Wistron and Foxconn, they are all coming to countries. It's great. So there is a momentum from that angle. But still, one is the infrastructure development, the electricity, the water that is required. And that's, again, each of the states are trying to entice, trying to provide, and therefore some states are ahead than the others because they have understood this game and able to provide. Also, I think it's a cluster. You cannot have one manufacturing here, one there. You need an economies of scale. You need certain other components that have to be close by. And therefore, it's this dimension. I think some state government, central government has imbibed it and are doing it and are promoting, and many people are coming, even though full country may not have that same level of infrastructure, but for these sets of people, we are able to provide. So that's one, and it will continue. It will take more time to go around the full country. The second thing, I think the labor laws and things, even recently, Prime Minister also talked about overhauling regressive labor laws, blue collar jobs, and how we look into this. This is great, because this always somebody who is coming from far becomes a concern, but I think it's being dealt with it in a much more direct fashions, and the old laws are being revamped. Obviously, when you change something, there is always some people on this side, some on the other side. That's very natural, but being able to address them is very, very important. And third thing I will say is the skill development, to be able to take people, because manufacturing, there is a basic manufacturing skills, and we have many Indian Institute of ITI and other kind of promotional skills in different institutes that are building the first level. But we should also, through NASCOM and other bodies, we're trying to define the maturity level of these vocational courses and what is required for what level of jobs. This is a mapping, right? Detailing out your jobs and then detailing out your skills and then trying to say what's there, what's not there. Now, some have to be built, some are there. Some of the other people from India who were located in other countries in recent COVID time, they have returned. And I think we have a resource pool. It's just a matter of mapping them, putting them into the right jobs to take it. But it's a job on its own. So I would say the infrastructure, labor laws, and skill development are three important things. It's a work in progress. And as it happens, more and more skilled labor will be there. more level understanding will happen. In absence of a bigger manufacturing ecosystem, this cannot move. It's a theoretical exercise, right? It's written in books. But when you have that, like the way we have grown R&D in India, over time, Bangalore has become Silicon Valley because there are so many companies and over time it grows. So you'll have to allow the time, but the journey has begun and begun very nicely. We should support that to take it forward.
Thank you for that. It's very connected to what we are saying at the end. What we're trying to do in the World Economic Forum and with the Global Lighthouse Network is to start sharing these use cases of and practices of success that have happened in different factories and try to a cross-learning journey from different companies and different organizations. Sarajit, on your side, what's your perspective on the needs in terms of capabilities for the region?
So I think a couple of them are happening. I think the journey to smart manufacturing to me is a journey first about the cloud, because you need the scale and the speed and the security of the cloud, because you need to secure your data. And we look at this as what we call a scale model, SCALE scale. The first part is how good are you at sensing? So sensors, computer vision, cameras, etc. Applications that pick up your data. Second is how good are you at comprehending? It can be machine learning, AI, human beings, which kind of use that data to make critical decisions near real time. Then you have to act on it. So these are in an industrial context, your actuators, your PLCs, etc., which control the DCS, which control your entire manufacturing systems. Then you have the learning part of it. How quickly are you learning, and are you learning the right things? And importantly, there's a forgetting element also. Are you forgetting and unlearning? Because I think unlearning the past is more important than learning the future. And finally, there are the experiential tools. Are you experiencing enough in terms of experience of the customer, the employee, the entire ecosystem? And so we call this our scale model, SCALE scale. It's we kind of wanted to simplify it and make sure that things we don't miss. And every manufacturing organization will have to do it. But the first step of it, as I said, is the cloud. The second step of it is the data federalization and the data virtualization. And we have come up with a concept called fourth party data, which we would be happy to share and talk about, which is you have this data where inspiration and learnings, and as Dr. Dev was saying, which can be shared across. Let me give you an example. We run these we have this RH degassers, which you might have seen in Kalinganagar, we have 16 of them. They are at Mach 5. There are 700 plus different parameters. Now, a lot of what happens there is actually simulation that Samsung and ISRO can use when they are making space equipment. We are running that every day. What can we do to simulate that data and create virtual real-time experiments, which helps us to be the world's largest experimental data factory at scale? So that's the second part, which is the data. The third part is that you can't do all of this without AI. So you will definitely have to use AI. And we have realized that anything that a human being takes less than 5 seconds to do, AI can do with today's technology. You don't have to invent anything. Important part is that when you're taking AI journey, you need to understand that there is an Indian context, and you can't just destroy aggregate demand, and you can't just leapfrog. You need to reimagine the past, but there are areas where the you need to reimagine the future, but there are areas where re-engineering of the past is the way to reimagine the future. So in those areas, we make sure that it is first smart assist, which is the human beings get assisted. It is augmented intelligence, where the human beings can do things that they themselves cannot do. And autonomous is only a third option when and as we get to it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think in our societal context, I think this augmentations for human being to operate is the way to go. And the whole AI, when we talk about AI for good, either it's a for good or for very mundane work, possibly we could look into it. But yeah, it's around the human-centric journey that we are talking. And let me also add a couple of points. I think Sarajit very nicely covered. I like his acronym scale and on the data front and IoT front, but also India, we have recently from government Telecom Engineering Center and our telecom standard bodies have announced one M2M as a standard that we will be adopting for smart city. And then industrial IoT has its standard. And I'm also chairing Open Connectivity Foundation in India, which is looking at smart home building. And we would be able to, we have defined a protocol that how to even interoperate between, let's say, from home, certain data that you get the electricity being consumed, and you can pull that data to the electric uh, distribution company. Or let's say air quality that is measured in the city could be tapped in home, and you can turn on your maybe air purifier from there. So this kind of interoperability standards, we are kind of looking into it, not to freshly developed in country, but these are there, but what suits us, and how do you connect manufacturing, home building, cities, what is the data exchange, servers, local servers, the data policy. These are being looked into from each of these corners, and we are kind of growing that journey for the
Amazing.
manufacturing.
Amazing. Thank you for that. I'm conscious of the time. I would like to bring a few of the Q&A's question that we have live. So I invite everyone that is connected online to submit your question. I would try to capture the ones that have not been answered yet. For instance, we have here one from Jiten Shah. He said that how the challenge of integrating legacy system is getting addressed while introducing new technologies like cloud offerings.
Can I take that?
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
So we started off. So just to give you a context, we took a cloud first strategy. So we said, look, we need to be cloud first, and then we looked around and said, which other manufacturing company has that strategy, and we found not too many. And so we said we will be a leader in that area, and and going to the cloud was our way of ensuring that we retire technical debt. So the way that you retire technological debt is that you need to have some framework. The framework we came up with is, we said that we will have a big framework where we took targets on what will be retired, what will be contained, what we will mainstream, and what we will experiment in. And you need to find out that ratio for your own organization. Second is, it's going to cost you some money, but it should be done basis business priorities. So, when you're retiring tech debt, look at the areas where you want to lead in business, and look at areas where the legacy infrastructure is really helping you back. Contain really helps because you're not spending your resources into maintaining the past or preserving the past, but you're spending your resources into spearheading into the future. And the last but not the least is get help, because there are enough and more people outside that can help you. And so we went for a multi-cloud strategy on the cloud. We said we don't believe in this legacy system, hybrid and on-prem and all of that. We said a vibrant company needs to have a multi-cloud strategy. So we went with AWS on our subsidiary ERPs. We went with IBM on our mission critical cloud. We went with Google on our AWS, with Google on our analytics cloud, and we went with Microsoft for our connectivity and collaboration cloud coming from the O365 platform. And so similarly, you will come upon certain things, and there'll be some setbacks, but there'll be some. If you really push hard, there'll be some areas of ROI coming in which you would not have taken into account, and that brings a smile to my face. Now, Dr. Dey, if you're wanting to add something.
No, I think you very nicely have expressed, and Tata Steel, I'm sure, from this long journey, you have brought these things very step by step. So the conversion of a legacy system to a very modern system, you are living by that. I just wanted to say philosophically, one point is that in those systems, it is running, it's operating. So what people would look into it is, what are my pain points? So if you know what are the technologies available, like I can do data analytics for preventive purposes. I have multi-cloud as an opportunity. I have other things, other kind of technology, robotics being there. If you know what's available in you, and you list down what are your challenges, pain points. You don't want to rehaul just for the sake of overhauling. You want to understand this is repetitive and this is where I can replace and bring a system and build it. So you go bottom up in these cases. Then if you are starting something fresh, you have the luxury to go much more top down and invest and go there. So that's the point I wanted to add.
Thank you both for that. Another question, actually, I'm trying to bring together several questions around the return of investment, the ROI. There are questions around methodologies. What are the right methodologies to define the return of investment in a digital journey? What are the initiatives that are truly successful in terms of ROI? These are two main questions that came around the Q&A. Who want to take that one? Dr. Ale, you want to give a try there?
A quick one. So there are three areas where digital technologies impact. One is customer experience. The other is business model change. And the third is the operational excellence. So in operational excellence, the metrics, as I had said, was yield, energy, throughput, quality, and productivity, which is the most important part for any factory. So, and very, very simply, yield is clear. You use less to make more. Energy is clear. You have to conserve your kilowattage per unit of output, whatever that is. Quality is clear. Unless you have a good quality standard, you'll have rework and you'll not be able to find a place in the market. Productivity is very clear. You need to go AI, you need to go automation, you need to reduce the amount of humans you're using per output, at least on the manufacturing side. So I think that part is fairly clear. And there, as Dr. Dev was saying, you need to understand, you need to sharply define your use case. And the use cases need to be prioritized on those that have the highest impact for you in the context of your business. I think on customer experience, that's a hygiene factor. And there you need to make sure that servitization is there. And what we are realizing is if you have 1,000 points of digital light, have 800 digital products in Tata Steel. I don't even know the names of all of it. So now we are bringing it into 8 to 10 platforms. So that somewhere in your journey, that efficiency part of bringing it into platforms, which are multi-capability, multi-federated, where data can do, and of course, the whole microservices architecture, so that you can pull and chop and change things and you're not reinventing and rediscovering the wheel every single time, are just essential parts that are some of the guidelines and guardrails that you need to put in place. Else your journey will become very, very unwieldy. Success will beget failure unless you are a little conscious of where you can head.
Fantastic. And another question that I see here is around SMEs. I mean, both of you are a big player in India. What advice would you give to the small and medium enterprise on this digital journey and factories? Dr. Dev, would you like to?
Yeah, I can go first. I mean, I see that in R&D and I see that also in manufacturing. There is a similarity between the two. We created a Samsung investment wing also to invest in Indian startups. And the main win-win strategic investment when you do, it's not just a financial investment that in any case we do globally, but strategic investment is all about you using my platform. I am reaching to people, I'm bringing their consumer experience. There is a service that I can add, when I add your service. So the startups plus us as a big platform. For example, we have smart things for IoT as a base platform. Now, if you join force and build a solutions on surveillance, then that's great. I have Bixby for my voice assistant, but I have only in only in English language. But if I want to take to 10 Indian language, you join force, use the platform, and I take it. Same thing is applicable even in manufacturing, that there are many small things on the component level. I talked about batteries, displays, ancillaries, and they're not trivial. They are very, very important. And many a times we suffer and wait for a long time from some other countries, some components to come. So I think once we tell that how we are building and what we are doing ourselves, whoever it is, and what we are open, that we are not building, there is an opportunity, then you take that. And I can take a recent example from a different context, not Samsung's, but ISRO has Indian Space Research Organization. These are known to build everything inside. Or even Indian Defense recently has talked about opening it up for components. So they have announced very clearly, if you go to their website, you'll be able to see that what they are building inside and where all they want people to come, private players to come, whether to build a signal processing algorithm versus in boards versus an RF component. This is well articulated. So once you tell that, then people see the opportunity, and a lot of young people, they will build their startups. They are looking for themes where they can be successful and get first, second customers. So once you have that, then you have a big name, big brand, big success, and go global. So this is what I see as an opportunity. So SMEs, just clear message is, those who are successful, already established, great. But if you are starting new, if you can get hold of a bigger platform from any of the companies that are successful, any of the initiatives of government, then it bolsters that program, but it also gives you the opportunity to go ahead quickly and in a focused fashion to have your first success.
Fantastic, exciting opportunities definitely for India. Let me take a few more questions from our participants online. We have Vishal, and I'm going to try to bring here two questions in one. He's asking, how do we ensure uniqueness of each cloud in a multi-cloud system? And there is another question about how do you work or how you address, I think here he was asking, how do we address cybersecurity when we're working with clouds and IoT systems?
So on two answers quickly. On the first one first, cybersecurity culture. You just need to have a security operations center, network operations center, and an operations control center. You need to invest in it. Things like SIAM, things like cloud access service brokers, things like OT and IT security separately. One of the things we have done is we have a kind of a red team, which is continuously working to hack us, and a blue team, which is continuously working to protect us. These are two different organizations, but they are incentivized for the same thing, to keep us secure, and that's where we have kind of done some innovation. But on the first question, I think the answer is that you need to find your sweet spot. It will depend on your region. It will depend on the kind of vendors that you're looking at. In our case, we discovered that all our on-prem assets were with IBM, and it made sense for us to go to the cloud with them. So we did we had 3 tracks. Track 1, we said if you want to be 100% on the cloud, all new developments have to be on the cloud. So we put a ban on on-prem development. The second thing we did, track 2, was analytics is most important for the workloads that we are doing. All analytics has to be on the cloud. And then the third thing we said is we'll never be 100% on the cloud if the center of gravity is not in the cloud, and that's all our legacy ERP systems and 350 surround. And so for that, we did a cloud affinity study, and we took out the target architecture to the current architecture, point of arrival, point of departure. So these are just, these are subjects by themselves, but some of that starting points, I hope, helps.
Thank you. Dr. De, your perspective on this?
I think this is well covered on the multi-cloud and the cybersecurity dimension. I wanted to talk a little different on the technology that's also playing an important role in manufacturing, and it's going to play more, is the virtual reality and augmented reality. This I see even a lot of simulation programs and what you could build, because not always you could have that whole facility up if you're starting something new. So this is something that are coming up. And otherwise, multi-cloud, it's the facilities are there. And as Sarajit explained, you can do your analytics on Google Cloud, but you also have Azure Cloud. That's a people's choice. And the provisioning is happening how to be effective in multi-cloud environment. Probably that was not there. That was a headache for people to do it. And switchover was kind of extremely difficult. But now there are microservices that are coming, some more open source program that are happening that's gluing that logic to take it forward.
Thank you, Dr. De. And I'm conscious of time. This has been super exciting, and I'm taking notes of many interesting ideas and many new insights that I'm also learning from India. So thank you very much to both of you. Final question, and a question that just to think about and to share with the group. In one word, it's a challenge. In one word, how you will define the factories of the future in India? What will be your wish? And while you're thinking on your one word that you would like to share, let me share a few of the key themes that we heard today. We heard about workforce, putting the workforce at the center of the whole discussion, skill and augmentation of human workforce. We heard as well today about technology and the role that technology has played in terms of scalability and reaching scalable solution in factories. And a final thought that I completely agree, and that's something that we're trying to foster, is how we need to share practices, use cases uh, among companies in order to accelerate this deployment of technology and transformation of industries. So to finalize, in one word, what's your wish? What do you think as the factors of the future in India? You summarize in one word. Dr. Day, you can go first.
Yeah, I could reuse the word servitization or data driven, but I will use a new word. I will use sustainability, which we have not talked about, but I think that's very, very vital for a country like ours, for everybody.
Definitely.
We're part of the global, but yes, sustainability is the word I will choose.
Thank you.
Inspiring. Word I choose
Inspiring.
is inspiring.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much to both of you. We are leaving so with inspiring and hopefully sustainable as well factors of the future in India. Thank you very much for both our panelists for the discussion. It has been very insightful. And to everyone listening us online, thank you very much for joining us. Stay healthy and wishing you a very, very nice day. Sumili, I hand over to you.
Thanks, Philip.
Thank you.
Thanks, Arjit.
Thank you,
Thank you, Dr.
Felipe.
Day. Thank you, Philippe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Felipe. Thank you, panelists, for taking out time to share your experience and learning today. It was indeed an inspiring, sustainable, and insightful session. I request the audience to take a moment to complete the poll to provide feedback on today's session and share your ideas for future ones. Your feedback is extremely important for us to bring more and more such session to you. Details on joining the Interchange platform for deeper discussions will soon be on your screen and will also be a part of the email that you will receive after this session. I encourage you to join and engage on the with the like-minded community. Look out for details on upcoming session on our IIoT India website and social media pages. Once again, thank you for joining us. We hope you found it useful. We look forward to seeing you in Interchange after this session and having you at future session. Do not forget to submit your poll. Take care and have a good day ahead.